I'd like to share a story with you from the most famous book in the world. In the beginning, God created the universe. The earth was desolate and it was formless. The earth was covered in a raging ocean that was engulfed in darkness. And the Spirit of God covered the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there formed light. Then God separated the light from the darkness. The light he called day, the dark he called night. And then the evening came, and the morning passed, and that was the first day. God went on to separate the waters. He created the dome above from the dome below. He created the sky. He went on to separate the water from the ocean, or the ocean from the land, and he created, in the oceans, he created life, and on land, he created life also. He created the domestic animals, and on the sixth day, he created man. I want to take you back to the very first part, though, the very first thing that God did. When he said, "Let there be light," he said a word, and he sent out a reverberation that unified all of matter. That reverberation that unified all of matter. Universal intelligence. What does science have to say about this? Science was created on the idea that we could take everything that man knows and break it down to its simplest format. We could break it down and go down. So that's what we started to do. The Greeks created a term that they called the atom. They took everything that we knew and they broke it down into a molecule. They went further and they called what they thought was the most elementary part, they called it an atom. But we went further. We then created our neutrons and our protons and our electrons, and we kept going further. We ended up getting to a part where we're at these things called elementary particles. These are our quarks, our bosons, our leptons. But when they got to the quarks, something happened. They realized that these things weren't any longer matter. They were more of an energy packet than they were matter. So science panicked. They backed up a step. They're like, that's too much. We can't be handling these things that are neither matter nor energy. And they went back to what are known as atoms. And that's what chemistry is based on. But the idea and the seed was already planted. People knew about it. And that's where quantum physics, quantum mechanics, and physical particle physics came along. They started looking at what are these little elementary particles. Now, something odd, if quantum physics was simply said, physics, we're going to look at the things that you cut away. Because we all know that when you do a physics experiment, that all we do is we have a baseline, and we start from the baseline and we work up. Well, quantum physics works from the baseline down. But that's not what they did. They went into these theories and ideas that were abstract and they couldn't really handle. But what they came up with is that elementary particle, that quark, is common to all matter. It's within all matter and gives to it all of its properties. Universal intelligence. What does modern medicine have to say about this? We've all heard of the placebo effect. Placebo effect is when a doctor gives a patient a sugar pill. They give them the sugar pill and they know that a majority of the time it will help the patient with their symptoms. They know on a very basic level that the human body has an amazing power to heal. Modern medicine also uses something called magnetic resonance imaging, also known as MRI. Now, what MRI does is it has these magnetic fields. It creates a very strong magnetic field poles. And it creates these overlying patterns of magnetic field and magnetic field. It then sends in a radio frequency that's tuned to every single type of matter that's trying to look at every tissue. Now, the amazing part is within the mathematics that go behind how to calculate that. They use some very high-end cross-field manipulation and how these magnetic patterns will have a phasic resonance shift, and that's how they figure out what the matter is. Now, something very intriguing. So MRI will give Christian Grey a run for his money, because they don't just have 50, they have 250 shades of gray. What MRI did, though, is they used those 250 shades of gray to figure out what type of tissue is within the human body. Now, the fascinating part is that when they found that tissue, when they set up the scale, they did white for tissue that's healthy, and they did dark for tissue that's diseased or cancerous. We all know that where there is light, there is life. There's a very basic part there. They understand that there's a common frequency behind all matter, and that's how they look inside the human body. Universal intelligence. Do you know what you have? Something very real that's happening right now. There are chiropractors that do not practice chiropractic. There are schools that do not teach chiropractic. There are new schools that are being opened that will not be using the words subluxation or innate intelligence. I did a very quick search on Google and I found some very interesting things. There's a new therapy out there called New German Medicine. What New German Medicine did is there was a man by the name of Dr. Hamer. He realized that man, for a long time, the mic is cutting out, has realized that it is not necessarily the disease that is a problem, but that the human psyche causes the illnesses behind it. And what Dr. Hamer did was he set behind him a way to clear the human psyche in order to create and cure disease. There's another one called esoteric medicine, or esoteric acupuncture. Now, it's not just the normal acupuncture that you and I know, but the esoteric part is they formed a way of life. They have a philosophy. They believe that behind every disease there is an underlying cause, and that all we need to do is to get rid of the underlying cause in order to cure the disease. And this next one is the one that I found the most scary. It's called Amatsu therapy. It's becoming popular over in Europe. It was only brought to us about 1995. And the reason that they said that humanity was not ready for it. What Amatsu uses is 5 baselines. They use environmental, physical, chemical, emotional, and electrical. And those are the 5 things that can create a disease status within the body. They use soft tissue work and also physical manipulation in order to cure the underlying cause of what is happening behind the disease. I find it absolutely fascinating that we are so quick to give up what we already have while everybody else is trying to find out what we have. We have it already. Do you know what you have? Thank you.
John Folta.